I think it's okay.
No, I think it'll be fine. I'll just, yeah, we'll just do that.
Got it.
Does everyone have it?
Yeah, I need to get,
I'm guessing it won't be 20 off.
yeah, I'll get all the offers. A through Z.
Yeah, this is far, like it's actually far, like it's city. Okay, is everyone good?
One sec.
All right.
Good to go.
The immigration system is based on an unsustainable logic of selective exclusion. Refugees, asylums, and the like are denied from most of the easily modified immigrants are admitted for exploitation, militarization, detention, and quotas, cost stratification, and zero policy field for amendment, Pipers 9. Protection, terrible, immigration, quotas, and broken borders, and prevention, one immigration, which is not sustainable, and immigration regimes are unjustly offering create all policies of war, and to authoritarian immigration, provision, job, media, and control, and non-Western immigrants, research, social cohesion, protect, markets, policies of vocation, border regime, assimilation, and migration, motives of capitalist, productive, unproductive, and returns use, and foreign capitalist, subject to protection, discipline, TV, other tools, migrant, subject to information, immigrants, subject to assimilation by approving countless discipline, contractors, illustrative is statistic by governments, militarization, external border, attempts to escape a border cross led to the death of immigrants and detention centers, these exceptions to the homosexual, legally immigrated border enforcement, facilitating border, assigning criminal status into immigrants, selective enforcement, protect, economic state, relying on labor, the child management, introduce PhDs, and select students, centers, or temporary level, middle labor market access, register, immigrants, glasses, to gain national competitive access to the mobility, top stratified cash stratification, created by differentiation of rights of employment for asylum residents, naturalization, family unification, and compensation is commodification by the Blazio resource or capitalist scheme, immigrants, and true competition, diaspora, outside of channel to make up for lack of unity, comfort, and immigration controls are based on the anxiety and fear of the other, and signify attempt to protect the stronghold itself has created the self of fear, is propagated national identity through the border regime, which colonizes social interactions, subjectivities, causing endless reporting and bouncing in the Pipers 9, national reality, psychological level, desire to preserve career, national identity in the world, outside of structure, collective identity, something from imagining. Community constructing and connecting with totally alone one with the other, seemingly being for enemies of distorting home, fear of specifically presenting being a world of logical threats of the open known world building, stimulus, and lack of space to realize that economic welfare, security, identity, and lacking legitimate principle, there's anxiety and leverage times. This is nothing that tightens itself, and the construction and active self and resource itself represent a stronghold and nothing thrives itself and becomes a nobody amongst everybody, counterbalancing, reordering, struggling, imagine unity to self concrete reality, difference, simple finding, unveiling empties, compensation, social lives, and rights, regularly, next sessions, and operating, existing world, identity, genders, not the truth of value, based on the career, color, creative, religion, or culture, increase, fear, death, which hots up communities, and intent on limiting, excluding the habits of the imagined, sharing, non-leader, politically, voting, barbarians, and blueprints with the symbolic attempts to create identity, representation of the national, social, attempt to mask the inherent lack of escaping, which is like anxieties and direct violence against the eccentric spectrum with like Curtis and Star Life is not 8. Theoretical little significant fantasy, usual generation policy, blueprint, arrangement, result that challenges the fantasy that place responsibility on the worker, dabbling in the exploitation of political and economic conditions of both rights, responsible person to not be idealized, social rejection, science divergence, or unconditional acceptance of cons, subject to significance of the ontological subject, the subject is eccentric, avoids the possibility, finds the ethics closely involved in defensive servitudes of subjects, attempt to cover constitutional black right from these politics, identity or continuous identifiable action, this is blackness and state identity was social available traits and inability to reproduce the back life century subject regime social for difference from further satisfaction waiting for the males with sophisticated drinking always ready, always already lost of the subject to accident subject to prohibition of limits, desire around the rest of the laws of these lack of juice, physical imagining, promise and capturing, loss of possible rights, fantasy, political project, social rules, object, petita, force, subject, sexual simultaneously, and relies on the phantasm narrative, usually acting for gone, black, logic, fantasy, identity, other, representation, or enjoyment, dark powers, foreign archetypes, dark and sympathizing, immigrants, fantasy, partial national community, again, desire through culture, private parents, every person, representation, discourse, or supports identity, organized commercial enjoyment, attributed partiality, action, will cause related to massively the possibility of encountering extinction, subject that our dreams always escape the sociological organization affected dimension of social identity, the political subjectivity, nominal social identity, sort of subject to engage in, renewed identification, political subject to universal virtue, that's why the family and dominant social logic, fantasy, and meaning, subject to relation to normal ideals, dominating practice, and actions of legitimate symbolic illusion from the self-transgression that failed to account for the contingency on the real and non-valid interpretation of subject to allows for more, move away from organization toward an ethics of the recognizement of the Strabakis 8. Some acknowledging the further conditions of social religion, one not talking about the investment in community and non-valid and valid mobility subject to the agricultural subject, non-valid components, and ethical subject emphasis on responsibility, suggestions, and analysis towards the opposite reactive and excellent why she's so willing to submit to the course of information when opposed to the self-contradiction and the culture from an ideal and transgression account for the enjoyment of fantasy and that primary does sustain rather than support by transgression acceptance and ability to avoid or reproduce the conscious but also by fantasy reproduction causing libidinal affect to support fantasy by subject to its symbolic subordination to a sense of the way and constitutes a desire for social political practices would effectively crossing with the fantasy defining ethics of religion ability to the lack of the other and tackling narrative real promising new social political possibilities and we advocate a non-teleological view of the border but moment embrace the fantasizing such identity and micro that immigrant as a worker only through assessing the desire and logic behind immigration controls can be attempted and terror connection to real individual interrogation is key to slow to any country when born in 5. Immigration policy is practical, liberal principles, those in the West of abstraction and practice no pure state of liberalism, no left against those of no national security, liberal immigration policy in terms of capital state to states, managed markets of business and welfare and more, and the illegal language or particularly carries legitimacy to British accumulation of laws and trust and Washington, economic migrants to legitimate and never validation coming from capitalism, people marks interpretation, and mostly misses the nuance of the legal immigration industry, administrative elements, filtration, sound management of non-receiving and taking the argument, imitating the knowledge through the possible revolution is going on some defensively or irreconcilable possible scenario rather than blueprint portals or less scared utopian non-intelligible imaginary global society with individual by desertion over cosmopolitan justice and falsifiability for broad consideration of the proper narrow critique of mercy and natural sciences that need their interpretation of research orientation is better for an examination of empirical phenomena from little and three falsifiable false social science the scientific just their hypothesis with a knowledge for a system of marks will be justified if impossible impossible to distribute an ad hoc and progressive modification or reject the theory or just unfortunate false word the definition of ad hoc is to try to research unstructured non-rational framework essentially experimental procedure and explanatory paradigms and theoretical principles guide conduct of scientific work to constructive practice belting scientific research to modify replace the structure of empirical rationality emphasis on research productivity and research of theory rather than encouraging of empirical adequacy feature rather than finished theory of theories or truth understanding empirical phenomena falsificationism is unacceptable extreme principle rejection of theory when reasonable formulate hypothesis account for falsehood consider anomalies in training planetary led to the bureau is a modification theoretical progressive and excess empirical content must be minimal to for the investigation theory standards not design self-responsibility conclusion whether programs of broader and empirical scope and the judges and the analysts evaluate the desired positive and natural to allow future interrogation or momentary eruption of the cycle of discourse now is needed to allow the political subjectivity to function. Schroeder 8. Analytic discourse also begins the givingness of the relationship is simple belief that the signified the other knowledge and so on analysis discourse and temporally stop motion and thus slips the ball and achieve for actual freedom in the act to help us subject actual freedom by writing on ethical law analysis analysis and free and create historic discourse or distinction between the analysis discourse and actually the psychoanalytic practice with master university address with positivity grassroots 40 telling what to do the university expertise or lecturing why you should do it the analysis of the historical radical negativity and also listening to the stanza for the missing analysis voice to help us articulate desire to resolve transmatic system lost in the real by into the symbolic beneath the analysis knowledge analysis of just subconscious and unconscious knowledge results in master signifier not influenced by the other but own values or formulations of being.
Good?
Yep.
What is telos? And what do you mean by non-teleological view of the border?
So non-teleological means removing the desire of the desire logic behind our view of the border.
Then why vote F? Like, I guess.
So current federal government policies always operate within the setting of we are having the border for we're having this vision of a border or these immigration policies to achieve a specific goal that is better for a more desirable world. The F is a recognition of this, which allows us to deconstruct the borders within our own lives, and it forces an interrogation of those borders, because the border is not just the border; it's the borders that we create within our own.
So how is the F not teleological if it's creating strategy deconstruction?
Because there's a difference between a non-teleological strategy and a teleological strategy.
What's the difference?
There's one where it's focusing on fantasies, trying to achieve the real, which is like the world as it should be, and like the perfect metaphysical world that we all desire. That's what most policies. That's what all the normative policies try to accomplish.
So are you forwarding a claim that like the institutions that cause sort of the violence at the border can never change? Because
Not-
you made the claim that like we
Not
shouldn't
with the current
fantasize about
structures.
changing the real.
Not
What
with the current
warrants is there in the
structures.
1AC that says that those structures cannot change?
The Van Houten and Pittsburghs talks about how states are not able to, like, states when they forward these projects just cause serial policy failure or error application. The Stauber caucus, Randolph Stauber caucus is really
Why?
good.
The first card, why? Why is there sort of error application and serial policy failure?
One, empirics. Two,
Empirics such as what?
empirics such as like the wall. Trump's fantasy of what like the wall should be
Okay.
always causes
That's
more
fine.
lash out, and
I have a couple questions. Why did you break it in?
because this app is awesome and I want to read it.
Okay.
My last tournament and my senior year.
Besides nationals.
Okay, and then my second question is, your Van Houten evidence talks about, like, it's not free, like, it talks about open borders as a strategy. Do you defend this? Because that's what your evidence isolates as a strategy to combat the current immigration system.
No.
Okay.
We think open borders is like, the Van Houten isn't like, it looks at the open borders as like a type of way how we should orient ourselves in the world.
Okay, but it also talks about, like, free trade policies
Yeah,
and
it's
stuff
like
like that.
open borders and free trade is inefficient in terms of welfare distribution effects. Alright,
Yeah,
so if
it's
that's how
inefficient.
Van Houten is
That is-
conceptualizing open borders.
It just said it was inefficient, that's hopefully like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So like,
Like that's offense for us.
No, it says
I guess.
protection in the form of tariff and walls is inefficient in terms of, instead of open borders. It advocates for open borders. Like, I
We're
don't.
critiquing the border, like that's our topic link. Like we can critique the border without like mandating that the border is, all borders are gone. We're saying we should stop desired borders.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a little bit of that. I just gotta get a couple of charts. Okay, I think I'm okay. Stop crap 7. Let me write it down really quick.
Damn it, my timer's broken.
I guess I'm just using my timer again. Kate has a timer. You should get it from him after this round.
No, this timer's not broken.
Alright, should be set. Everybody different order? Yes, okay. It's 2 off and then case.
Almost thought it was a 20 off.
Is anybody marking? Alright. First off, on this topicality interpretation. Topical affirmatives must defend the United States federal government reducing its restrictions on immigration. First, USFG is the federal government in the USA, based in DC dictionary government and politics 90, United States federal government based in Washington, DC. Second, restrictions on legal immigration refer to quantitative and qualitative limits based on grounds for admissibility. Task on 16, quantitative restrictions on immigration topics. Immigration, quantitative restrictions, qualitative restrictions, people live in which should not be allowed to live here. Violation, they don't defend the United States federal government reducing restrictions on legal immigration. C, reasons prefer A is predictable limits. Our model debate ensures that absence of any controversial position that allows for the absence to be creative with the strategy, but limiting how far one of the fringes of the literature base, absent checks in the after, an infinite number of potential uncontroversial advocacies, and then against this ground, the ground that loses the permutation or devolving down ridiculous counterclaims that oversolve the literature base. This breaks the competitive aspect of debate because no other activity has the incentives to read arguments you may not believe in or switching sides. The F has to answer what the point of being negative is in the counter-interpretation, how intimate research can solve the education claims debate without limits just turns into the monologues. Immigration debates are good, breaks down us versus the dichotomy that shapes white-wing ideology. Brown and Rodriguez in 14 any series of conversation regarding immigration must account for the wide range of immigration policy between the right and this when it comes to implementing policy actions at the state level levels most accurately are appropriately nationwide debate over our nation's expect the trend of saying maintain the efforts to continue the proposal laws solve absolutely nothing except all the producers of the guy back here in our attempt to shut down these debates and policy programs they produce we welcome meaningful reform that rejects the mission of our listening and issues of us versus the dichotomy. The topic is a stasis point balance that balances after they create solution while assuring class no stasis point results in monologues of Donald in four states has been generally considered the point of class where two opposites have been arguing for stasis right need to arrive at a decision with the issues prior to the start of the conversation. What happens when participants fail to reach agreement the topic is the learner or as many others saying in such situation genuine engagement is not possible in an enterprise like academic really bold the encounter is cast like that treating the balance and need to accommodation on the starting point surgeon. This is especially key with the times when there's no possibility of extending the clock and mechanics. Analyzing how the state works is the best way to understand how to act against it. Understanding how the laws form are determined to be illegal is the best way to organize movements against bad state actions. And T's in order for the game debate should be about creating visions for how debate should be structured, not about the after. See if we learn models for debate is better to vote negative and new apps or voting issue. Obvious clash by personally avoiding negative ground. That's what we need for fairness. Negative ground is key. Reciprocity gets applied bias. Interpretation is close to applicable ground at least. Solves our offense. New planless apps or works magnifies ground offense because none of our generic supply terms insert discourse arguments can't focus on the performance. Engage in the applicant has to use speech time to prep the off. And second off is the critique. The structural focus more closely to effective capitalist politics. Advantage of evidence requires our investment in capital by saying the immigration doesn't involve enough free trade. Rejecting individuals' fantasies is crucial to collective future. Dean until reducing innovation to lead us. Geography, regarding the division necessary for policies, acceptance, industries, collective suspicion, privileges, individuals, singular, autonomy, 17th, the back the strategies for creating practices of self-motivation or more than large scale organization. Movements will add to the difficulty to use this new thing. Interest to be harder. Some GDS that I just like with the chatting from classes. This kind of policy that we're going to start working people making policy with that. I expect you to see the actions of the play full distortion. The only properly policy strategies to follow up specially fire. Organized by control over the left is issues such a goal accepting little versus the goals are individual lifestyle versus love accommodating the capital system the lowest individuals and combination privilege marks. Usually the basic principle of the alternate from each or according to ability to according to the live predatory disaster narrative intensifying the platform. The absence of comic was that common in the future the comic strikes makes it itself signifying starts the latter and calls out most of the new entertainment and shape of words in that displays are as insured they as they turn around the underlies of music like struggle equality destroyed by culture this celebrates various going solidarity resisting poverty redistributing capitalism is a recounts very impact left unaddressed no cost extinction. Robinson at 16 leads up mainstream more social response and equality the opportunities for capitalists and entertainment social anxiety channel for city glory communities the absorb this is by the far reaching ecological limits we have reached we are surviving the oceans of radio otherwise conditions of life ecological dimensions of progressing on better saving the capitalism and seeking the providence of imagine the environmental conditions of the capitalism desensitized the present of the economics and repercussions of capitalism the subsequent hours and there's crisis based philosophy, military expansion, consumers, and militarized accumulation, making worse balance structure. How we find the global rules violent. Our survival may depend on it. And the alternative is to orient political and social struggles towards economies to rise in three directions. Crucial to define the political future cycle and locally imaginable. Anything else is more mere pauses or continued of this failure. Dean 12. I used to rise into designated mission experience we never really see the generalized in the areas communities Garcia Linera and communities rise into the most actual thing also acts in the explanation justification communities conditions actually complex and dismiss communities rise into philosophy great communities that are reading for the difference open up the possibility of products so explicitly jettisoning communities with a widespread diversion of gives cigarettes use general services by levels to issue those any capitals of this reduction issues after the thorough discussion about the financial space and decision of this world one project taken open up and analysis that increase capital specific this was many anger inside God that's critical analysis probably going to struggle the lost side of the communist horizons off the table with the radical democratic looking step. Whether the capitals are all anxious about the forces of the communists desire. Resolution communists with the region has left the communist horizon knowledge between communist horizon complete. The perspectives of which capitals no longer is the only game time to build possibilities for revolutionary starts to take shape at various and action follow anything possible instead of policies that ensure the versus momentary structures specificities local projects and struggles with the capital setting the communist horizon and presents to abolish capitals and create global institutions and get time and cooperation to shift into towards military and opposition type organizational forces and sovereignty of the people. Go to case the app is double proposing a TLOS and not having a TLOS makes absolutely no sense. They have to propose an action in order to not have a plan, vote negative on presumption because the AFS strategy makes negative sense, and not having a plan makes no sense when the first three cards are put off into things to open borders are a policy. If you either have to defend it or it's an obvious way how they could read the act on top of the way, and the only coherent path towards broad radical change starts with wonky policy fixes will galvanize further action. Strategic planning in detail is crucial at the left is missing, right? Except the left release immigration is handling with a clear idea of how to be regulated. Scheme of regulation to the left pursuit of nothing perfect, the means committing the position of the reaching out, pursuing immigration, the means immigration, which is the limit, time of responsibility, or having more of this is over. There's a hierarchy of your policies of later for future immigration, so you can also prepare people making workers' life, so other people working in contact with your successful which avenue will prove more successful. More additions to the short term will have the huge implications for the success of immigrant legal cases and citizenship and boundary practices are not the result of xenophobic security practices, but work to disrupt the sovereignty of the nation. Say hi for no one citizenship means bad population versus authority decision for making politics and may not be citizens. The exclusion of migrants is more of a body postmodern life that all the citizenship makes the migrant citizenship is a working device not to train itself as the domestic border the task is effectively what is acceptable here today. Really global station no longer acceptable now. Migration is accounts for the limited sovereignty of university countries having large numbers of nationals living and working pitch of the sovereignty of the state country working migration by not across the region station and transnational perspective. Scenario analysis is pedagogically valuable, enhances creativity and self-reflexivity, deconstructs cognitive biases and flawed ontological assumptions. Having ATOs to keep harm bar and all 16 current cold or elements in the migration quite scholars. They pay for research value for finding art and several relationships and enhancing communications only one to another. Generation associated research programs that are policy relevant. The location is paid to techniques for generating policy ID scenarios, servicing corporate planning or policy. Policy really has not these scenarios subject to corrections and unexpected combinations of what is actually surprising is the possible future scenarios are not how this prediction or simulation different different possible future states in the world with possible those future scenarios is useful for policy making the ability of decision making expansion for this community are considered by the existing model sales rigor thinking confirmation bias the power of these scenarios and it allows the ability to break out the conventional modes of thinking, mark out conventional modes of thinking and legal restraints work the theory of exceptions, self-serving wrong shooter and the legal device of the possible and capable of antagonism which highlights what are big violence and these are self-evident that is trying to give coherent rules for the actual movements to fail the general trends positive by no means or which would need to reform the process of minimization of obviously a lot of such it was a development of obstacles since essay background legal debates are crucial for social transformation teaching legal precision helps reproduce oppression even if one shot solutions aren't perfectly clear and 11 students have found this one because intuitions legal arguments but feeling powerless to do so common as to the lawyers can answer political communication legal arguments students are asked to play the roles and play the best they can with an effective theory about another put on the table but this is not a waste of time learning occurs while a lot of world politics are undefined they are not the same equipment learners possess useful knowledge not generally put right through so access to the training synthesizes too many complexities of right progressive the students also themselves a lot of scholarly even if all legal case may make a contribution to justice and litigation based upon the energy around which you can mobilize and conduct conscious raising to including mark the card at conduct conscious raising like the app's just a double turn like you can't propose a TLOS have cards that propose a TLOS and then say that an anti-teleological strategy is bad.
Good?
Yep.
Cool. Your first argument on framework, your definition of the USFG, this card defines the United States of America as the federal government. How is that a definition of what the USFG is?
It says the United States federal government is based in Washington, D.C. The USFG is part of the resolution.
So that's a location. How does that explain what it does or its function? You're just telling me where the USFG is.
Yeah, I mean, we think that the U.S. has multiple, I think the federal government has multiple functions. I don't think I really need evidence. If you need evidence, we can read it in the block. But the federal government has 3 branches. They all do different things. The judicial, do you want me to give you like a gov lesson or like what?
No, that's fine. I took my own. Has communism ever worked before?
There hasn't been an example of true communism. I mean, there's movements that are rising.
What's like true communism?
Yeah.
I mean, every example of communism that's existed has involved a state actor that has had.
No, I get that. Like, what's like true communism?
What is the ideal communist society?
Well, 2 answers. First, the Dean evidence says we don't need to define it. There's specific arguments from Garcia Linera that say there's no definition needed for the communist horizon because it's the most natural thing in the world. It doesn't need an explanation or justification. The second argument is that obviously, like, true communism is what the alt pushes towards. We don't know exactly what it will look like. Obviously, like all your blueprints
Sure. Okay. So, what is the ideal topic?
The ideal topic is where affirmatives propose plans to reduce restrictions on legal immigration, and the negative refuses that through critical analysis, counterplans, dissads, test the topic, and discuss immigration debates.
So every affirmative team should read a plain text.
We think every affirmative team should defend the USFG reduces restrictions on immigration, not just a plan text. Like it has to be about legal action on immigration and reducing restrictions on them.
All right, what are good immigration policies?
We think that good immigration policies are things that alleviate violence the U.S. has done to immigrants, allow more immigrants to contribute.
Like, there are multiple justifications that are possible for what a good.
If the 2AC just stands up and be
policy
like, all the apps suck this year, the HSI is boring. You read HSI earlier this year, so that's just kind of fun.
So I was
Like,
looking on your wiki,
yes.
real quick, all of your like 1MCs versus KAPs are like framework and cap. So your part about new planless apps are worse magnifies ground offense. If all of your off every single round is framework and cap, what other offense are you losing?
Well, one, we think those debates shouldn't happen, that's why we reteed. Second argument is that.
Yeah, but this is about the new planless apps specifically.
What do you mean?
You say new planless apps are worse than regular just new apps.
Yeah, most of our other generics we can't read, like I can't read.
Also, it's like the
Like,
question of the
emissions
model.
I can't read any
elections
immigration-based disads, I can't read wages.
It's
things like
also
that.
a question
I
of
also
the
can't read
model.
like immigration-based.
What's the difference?
I can't read comment because you stole that.
What's
I
the
can't read-
difference between, why does us reading it new matter than any other team that's been reading it all year?
Because it's a question of pre-round prep, that's the only thing we can control,
Prep is-
because Nate
So you don't prep other teams?
We don't have to
That's that.
prep.
Okay. 8.
Yeah. No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we either are they visiting this weekend, like, maybe they have an event here. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, good school lit. Right. Let's see what day. Yeah, well, I'm judging the week, but I will let you know if I hear anything. We'll keep trying to and I'll keep sleeping. I'm like, come on, social media for once, where's the news? Okay, all right.
In prep 558. Good, sir. It'll go case, framework, and then the K.
Is there an overview on case?
Yeah.
How long
It's not
is it?
very long.
Okay.
we're not ready. The immigration system has had a severe stage to become a border regime focused on the violent exclusion of anyone outside its own boundaries, refugees, asylum the others crossing the border, replacing detention centers as an elimination technique while immigrants necessary for production are allowed in on the basis of desired capital exclusion based on anxiety of the fantastic attempt to avoid the lack of the subject countries or reorder to correct their stronghold placing symbolic entities on the unknown which causes cycles of anxiety and exclusion. We control the internal into all violence that causes scapegoating the other resistance. True to the fundamental lack of meaning, we never realize reasons, actions, feeling direct anxiety outward evidence by the banality of social relations and increasing reporting within social relations with a small tradition are made. Absent a change in the view of borders is not sustainable border. Sin will continue the violence on the only an interrogation of our relation with the symbolic exclusion and lack within our lives will allow us to have a larger movement based around the logical view of borders as a means, not as a means to desirable, but as a symbolic boundary. To one, see number one, the alternative is a non-logical view of the borders because we have a strategy for orienting ourselves within the political and have the actual political subjectivity does not mean we're desiring something. Also, we use teleology as we use non-teleological as the opposite of teleology. Teleology is a philosophy of desire and trying to always have a desirable outcome. They don't understand the philosophy behind their own double turn and give a high threshold for voting on this double turn. They say coherent paths have policies, but we have this card from 2003. We have really shitty policies since then. We still haven't had any actual shift in the immigration system. This is probably a sensation of trying to have a large shift with that. Well, if always on this logic, one and two, number three, the citizenship. There's no way for citizenship to work. Then even the policies like refugee and asylum, I mean, we're always going to be falling back and trying to suffer for our lack of hegemony within a place like the Middle East by trying to bring in refugees and asylum, but still trying to exclude them within boundaries within our own life, and then bring in merit-based exclusion to proper modern capitalist regime, which means we are right. We're also a prior question capitalism group. 1 and C2 through the group. The next three arguments stand this fantasy of what it means for stereo analysis of the legal system to work. The legal system is not key. They have not provided any specific examples of the immigration system being key for actual change, which goes on the fantasization stuff. Framework. You fair within the limits of subjectivity, the ontological self, influence on action, and attempt to eliminate any perceived notion deviation from order until the lack of social relation without regaining. With this far question, the negative gain card or any offense we mean where our political traverse the fantasy is necessary. Some of the facing political subjectivity, which we bring up to any policy discussions, all like see the role of the judge in the 1AC, which means that we're going to have a very hard time waiting this to be the role of the judge. Is the analyst and to look at all of the desires within the debate and try to provide a momentary relapse of these desires to actually try to form a political subjectivity, which means we have prior to any of their education claims in this round. You cannot have an immigration discussion without realizing the desires first. Interpretation, the evidence, and investigating the topic rather than topical discussion. We are the USNP. Kilburn 14. The Constitution tells the greater law the people hold the fundamental sovereignty and the powers of the government between federal and state. The division does nothing to shake that the people were unitary. The people delegate power to the federal government, the delegation from a single class of sovereign that firm. Their intervals are often the answer to their interest, the same as the USFG. If they're in DC, the same as the NBA, the Bulls, Cavaliers, and Warriors located in New York City. There's no intent to define here, merely description of the parts of the whole reject. Their attempts to control it in terms of its actual definitions. Also, their restriction definition. We mean this by critiquing the border and the system of meritocracy within the immigration system and the exclusion of asylum refugees. That was the topic. Again, the rewarding this and a negative attempt to mediate the rules of debate against Talcani is a form of fantasization to govern the practices within the debate, which is technically flawed. This is idea to give their interpreting ETV and endlessly attempt to repair the contradiction within the debate, so because they're exciting when the big other gets too close to it for the perceived sort of self-concentrator. Reporting text leaves endless exclusion within the basis and their education paradigm system can be fairly self-access. The group of having different ideas of debate present action before any education. Skateboarding descent. The negative and perceived deviation from the norms and symptoms of redefined basic and the limits of control teams practices over results of battle skateboarding teams for engaging political subjectivity and questioning norms of skateboarding turns all off and gives you violence and teams and individuals are excluded from specific harm because their ideas turns any truth. That's the arguments. They don't actually care about the truth. Testing for rather their truth. I think it's rather lies predictable limits or predictable limits mean that limits has for a limit is a limit limits have limits and if there are general. So I have given aspects of this list have been and pictures evidence is the Van Houten and pictures evidence is the
Public is actually making an isolated immigration restrictions to the borders, meritocracy and refugee exclusion provides an analysis of the non-fully eligible approach to solve these harms. That's the background evidence. Their immigration good, and we're still debating about it. Don't force us to defend state action if we've proven that state action is never going to solve anything. The state's point. Plus negative, we have we can prove we have a topic link. You can cross line by work on Vancouver a month. The mechanics, the mechanics. There's no reason as a voter you can cross line the distance about why it's trying to exclude specifically about the new apps arguments. The new apps argument to make distance one. It limits us out for our enjoyment. They ask me to cross line. I'm reading this. I'm trying to have fun and learn and have educated my last debate. That's trying to limit out more people, more of our response, which is the priority to anything in this round, because that's the terminal impact of rebordering within this room means we're never going to be able to have any actual engagement with each other. Then it's also best for strategic thinking, because we're going to be able to have discussion in the round and cause them to come into contact with these ideas and within the round. And also planless are good. They can provide a distinction why planless new is ever than planless anyways.
There's like no offense on that. Can you let?
They're not contested the role of the judge. You can classify that here. It's going to be very hard for them to also be able to the Vancouver and K exploitation because we said that the only way to have it actual go away from exploitation is try to look at the desires behind the exploitation first. They also try to GLaDOS. It's not about the fantasy capitalism placing the fantasy of the capitalist revolution places responsibility on the workers who revolt, which means they're always going to be blaming the worker when it doesn't solve and reverting backwards. So also the background evidence is really good. It talks about how immigration policy is key to problem capitalism, not the other way around, which means we need to fix immigration policy before we fix capitalism. The non-teleological view of the border is solves the root cause, and the case also dealt from the very the social norms of to make the polar part of the capitalist structures of accumulation, which means they're always going to be trying to rebordering just like capitalism reborders, which means they're the perfect party is never going to solve it. Also perm to the applicant hammer and sickles on econ buildings. The perm to the applicant and the alt their alt is very their alt is actually I'm going to do Robinson first. Robinson is really shitty. It shows their movement is a fantasization of movements. He's led to neoliberal corruption. The right evidence by the rise of Trump. Robinson is 16. Robinson is apples out of the house. Trying to spread their popular struggle. The resistance to trade Spain, but the Occupy immigrant rights movement, the systematic global capitalism influence and discourse and practice of movements. And that was written in April 2016. Shortly followed by Trump's election. The party, the alt, permitting the alt, the alt farming, the collective party will only succeed after rejecting individual identifications. Gina verse 16. But these are rooted individualism, collectivity, reform team will start looking at how their exact appearance and the interests are not being recognized as there is political interest in believing about individual fiction. And the alt is literally a fantasy. Dean verse 16. I really mean the Communist Party, Johnny's fantasy, the Revolutionary Party, the kind of Communist Party I take my model may not be really dominating the relatives of the Communist Party, and you not imagine the Communist Party or the Left Party, Joe much electionary and no period. We're supposed to continue question the system we have, and the logic at the same cycle of chasing utopian party revolution causes endless failures. Everyone's fantasy part of the party's neighbor. Dean verse 16. Political party of the left one the one and hours organized like the actual work company social party the social party succeeded. There was violence and purchase and repression. Why not make party that's not repression design excluded Jewish people on the basis of sex, race, and sexuality.
One second.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. I'm good.
First question, overview on case. You say the app changes social relations. How? How does the reading of the 1AC change social relations?
Yeah, I mean, every single time ballots create small cognitive shifts within people, and also our discussions create those cognitive shifts because when
Christiana votes for like chaos that change subjectivity all the time. Do we see those changes in this debate? Like,
yeah, I think so, because when we're talking about this, we're coming into contact with our own desires and trying to think like, what are my own desires like having this way?
Okay,
which is like calling them out, like
desires.
Like, hey,
no, desires.
Your perfect view of the topic is probably
yeah. Can I ask you a question? So desires is a good segue. You say you read the app because you want to have fun. If it's about changing subjectivities, and you say the only reason you broke it is to have fun, what's the point of reading?
I said have fun and education.
Okay, are you sure?
That's what I said in my speech. I was like, the reason we're reading this is because it's like,
okay,
it's a good app. We enjoy it.
Scenario analysis. You say that there's no examples of that we provide of immigration policy being key. The only immigration policies you say are bad are things like the wall, things that the topic has nothing to do with. So,
I don't
like,
think
what
so.
examples of apps on the topic are bad?
I mean, I can read like our like top half like minute of our 1AC, which is like apps that are around on the topic, HSI,
Why do you
asylum,
read it then?
refugee, what?
Why do you read HSI then, if it's so bad?
I guess I came into contact with my desires.
So you just like changed from the.
Through researching the app, I guess that's what this round is also about, like researching.
Okay, USFG equals the people, so, you two could be the people, us three of you could be the people,
We're all the people.
all four, all five, so if I did like 330 million, how many people there are in the, and then I just like factorial that'd be how many apps you could read, like,
I mean,
how many
songs,
actors?
yeah, kids, those are the
Sure.
We say you're like the fact that you set predictable limits as a standard is really great for us because that means the limit is just like
Okay.
is someone writing about
okay,
this
if you
as a
think-
connection
I have
to the
a question.
topic. Like thank you for that as a standard.
If you think that rebordering is bad, why didn't you disclose the app, so we can have a better debate?
I don't see how that's rebordered.
Your disad to new apps bad is that we rebordered the debate space, then why did you not disclose the app, so we can have a better discussion and be better prepared to debate the app?
/ better engage in our own desires.
Question: if we disclosed, would you still have read to USFG?
I mean, I don't know,
Don't know.
this is like, we have to.
I feel like if like
If I had,
probably looking at your history of what you've hit with KAPS.
that's not my question, why?
You say you want like the education aspect of it, and that's chill. Like I'm cool with that.
Okay.
But looking at history, the number of times where it's just evolved into TUSFG or CAP,
Alright.
you cannot get any uniqueness on
No,
those claims.
sure, I
in
know.
this round.
Okay, that's fine, I have another question, the double turn argument on the K, you say like debase capitals. How does the app not double turn if you're reading like this
No, it's
app
the
in
norms
debase
that
space?
you're upholding are like the capitalist norms.
And then, okay,
Yeah,
then how
the
do you
norms.
not
Okay, so
uphold
the
capitalist
norms of the way that like accumulation and trying to limit specific spaces is the way that is the same exact way that capitalists.
How does not adding
capitalism
excess
works.
apps that you haven't broken yet also add accumulation?
What?
Like, okay, never mind.
How does me researching non-accumulation?
Okay, that's,
Like that's
we'll
what
take
you-
prep, I don't want you to answer the question.
I'm gonna step outside a little bit.
You have medicine?
What? I already took it.
Oh, dang.
I took it. Actually, I need more of the.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
Are you feeling better? Here, just take half of mine. I don't drink as much as you anyways. I should be able to do the rest of it.
What was the scapegoating just had on TV?
Your intro leads to scapegoating of teams who fall outside of this intro, which means there's always.
Okay, so it's just exclusion argument?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, specific violence.
Yeah,
Because you're like,
yeah, I got
these
you, I
teams
got
are
it.
bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop. 456. No cards.
I think it's 4, because you took a minute of prep before the 1 and C.
Oh,
yeah.
356 then. Should we knock this timer?
Mike. Yeah, sorry, that's my move.
Alright. In case.
Are there new cards?
No. There will be an overview, although I don't think it'll be that long. Right. Everyone already?
Extending our interpretation, topical affirmatives must amend the United States federal government reducing its restriction on legal immigration. This interpretation twofold. First is that the United States federal government is the federal government based in Washington, D.C. and consists of 3 branches, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. That's the Dictionary of Government Politics 98. And the second is that restriction refer to restriction on legal immigration refer to either quotas or standards of inadmissibility specifically isolated the INS. 1 and C. Task on our interpretation best for competitive equity and education. First, political limits. There has to be a limit on how far the act can run to the friction of the legal base. Absent checks and absolute depend on controversial provisions because that limits the next of the contested strikes and better aspect of the vacancy no activity. Forces need to switch side of the meeting different arguments. Each round segments top education, immigration debates and attack. Also, internal opposite form debates about immigration policy attack officers and bodies of presenting more nuances to account of the history behind immigration and foundation. That also mainly means that we ask about the analysis of the desires of it because ultimately only the analysis of immigration policies leads to an analysis of how desires shapes the policy. But starting off with an analysis of desires that ignores the fact that how those specific policies are implemented in the first place. That's 1 and C. Brown and Rodriguez. Third is mechanics of how to incentivize research for how the state implements immigration laws such as the specific provision of the INA, how that causes violence. Only an analysis of legal institutions through research can lead to movements that challenge the state providing inroads into using the state against through lawsuits and political engagements predicated on those specific reforms. And we've already impacted education, but competitive equity is also impacted it, not answered it. It's the subpoint is clash. The critical limits and point is option cost and debates. Competitive equity issues that we both said have instead of engaging 3rd and 4th level massive elementary research based by acid clash debates through to monologues whose educational value can be solved through independent research. He said, but the first argument, no, it is not. This framework is not just a space of subject formation. And first is that it doesn't shape social activity. Subject formation will use fatal form, but medium interactive on a daily basis, and what academic interest you have. Debate doesn't shape either of those because people have socialized outside the academic and literature space that helps shape academic interest that exists outside the activities. 2. Second is that clash debate prevents subject formation. The acts of journal into this arguments based on the performance inclusion of the 1C. Even under their model debate, no one shapes their orientation because the competitive because debaters have a competitive incentive to not buy into that world lose. Even if they lose. Third is that this argument is historically not to be previous thoughts and previous teams voting for critical affirmatives ultimately conclude that subject formation doesn't change even though those arguments are so proliferated. This that's proliferated. They don't include a defense of the United States federal government reducing institutional legal immigration. The irony did a lot of that work, but that was the violation. The 1 is the role of the ballots argument is self-serving. The role of only it's a self-serving argument. Only the acronym be the best role of the ballot. Second is that we've already linked to that was above. Third is that the role of the most objective role of the ballot should be who did the best at debating status quo. They say that the counter-interpretation it should be a discussion of the topic. First is this doesn't resolve any of the opposite above. The first is that the point of the resolution is dictates how that means that half the time that the team doesn't have to defend the USFG. This allows the teams to critique the USFG when they're negative. Under the absolute of the topic, the neck will always have to defend the USFG because there's a competitive incentive to always be negating against the USFG because it infinitely more angles. Second is that we resolve this. Understanding how the USFG works, the best that work against it because the USFG must operate by its own rules. That's the mechanics of it. The third argument is that there's no the third argument is that who would get permutation conditionality and permutation conditionality other things that other traits that are specific to the negative in the world of their
adopt a counter-interpretation, in the role of their counter-interpretation, can be affirmative, can be conditional in their acts, can be negative, can the negative get acts to permutation. These are all questions that they don't resolve in the two-way. You should not let them resolve the question in the one area, because that destabilizes the other fundamental structures of faith. They say the US actually no. The US actually only refers to the federal government debatation of Washington D.C. That's an issue of the politics. It links to our offense that would explode critical moments because it allow anyone read by someone living in the US to be topical. They're only defense advocate. This is solvency advocate. One, there's no solvency advocate. There's no stable interpretation of what a solvency advocate is in the first place. Which you have to know. What's the expand second is that if they're correct that all people in the USCG all people in the US are the USFG, that means that any advocacy written by any person who's part of the USCG is automatically a solvency advocate. They say that our dictionary of politics it's pretty clear. It says how the federal government refers to the three branches above. They say the next argument, the criticism of restriction does not mean that they're specifically changing restriction in the INA. The reporting consent, first of all, is a top cross-experiment provides two TVAs as a result. The first is open borders, the second is ban the wall. The only offense they have in this is that serial policy is terminal impact of serial policy here. There's two answers. First, the sole warranty gives the wall. These policies occur only because there's a lack of empathy for immigrants. We resolve that. What does see Brown Rodriguez? Second, the mechanics linked to this understanding how the state implements reform is the best way to combat against the only argument that the only terminal impact is after that immigration policy would create bonds towards the border. That's obviously a reason why the topical version of the app would resolve this. Either way, that means that we would lead to a discussion about all the implements of the app. The only offense that they can afford is desire. Obviously, we would resolve that because an analysis of desire would be inherent in the advocacy of the topical version of the app. We don't mandate what specific justification you have to use, only that you have to defense the USFG, the scapegoating distance, which that debate ultimately resolves. There's really criticism on the negative means that these arguments are still included in the debate or not demonized. Second, it's inevitable. Even if the policy decay really still leads to demonization of critical literature. Postmodernism, the first debate seems still cause the same demonization of everything, which means inevitable. The third argument is that there's no need to defend the state. You can cross-apply the answers from why their counter-interpretation is bad as to how, even if you're defending the state through research, that still means you can still actively work against it, which means we are later in this. They say that we have predictable. One, it's a question of the mechanism they can forward. Obviously, a discussion of the borders is insufficient. That was all done on the counter-interpretation about how that doesn't resolve any of our offense. Only specific legal analysis can resolve. Go to Gates. The first argument I've said is a double turning move. They formed a non-teleological strategy as a view. Proves that the app can resolve the bonds inflicted by the borders. The only argument is a philosophy of desire. The affirmative is desiring for the ballot. Probably proves that why this whole argument is a telos. Either if they're right about this, then that means you can easily vote negative, even if they win the affirmative. The next argument is that the scenario planning is good. Only a teleological method resolves this. It is true. Impacts versus the domain scenario that allows us to understand complicated passages and examine applied policy that become inevitable that could disconform forms of fraud on the lack of this academic testing resulted in the inevitable demonization of immigrants, i.e. how immigrants can be portrayed as terrorists because there's a lack of research done in the mainstream about how statistically speaking there's no correlation between immigrants and terrorism, and how it is more likely how the people who are already residing in the US are more likely to commit acts of terrorism. Second is that it prevents confirmation bias through suicide. We can have state models that lead to groupthink responsible for racist and homophobic policy. Their model just reads the Bush administration. The only answer they have is that there's not enough examples of this. First is that they're not isolating examples of bad immigration policy, why they're inevitable to fail. The app has already isolated that they do not forward a claim about the permanency of bad immigration policy, which has a double-blind effect. Either the topical version of the app resolves all these claims, or two is that the second is that we should still engage in legal analysis to understand how to best resolve those bad forms of violence. The next argument I make is that the Eugenics one C. Sherman and Clay that says that legal restraints work. This theory of the theorization of how the immigrants' response to the border is fundamentally wrong, because we can still enact reforms that resolve that violence. The Sherman analysis is that legal devices played a positive role in taming the political antagonism, i.e. how the Obama administration passed the DACA, which led to bipartisanship even among Republicans and Democrats over why we should allow the undocumented children of undocumented immigrants to remain in the United States. The only reason why this policy is failing now is because of a lack of empathy, which only our interpretation develops, because we lead to those more informed debates about immigration policy. Alright.
But, yep, anyone not ready? Awesome. So the top level of your framework, you said that we need an analysis, we need an analysis of legal institutions, we need to have a policy-specific focus, we need to analyze policies of the federal government. If we're analyzing policies of the federal government through the affirmative, why do we have to implement a policy?
First of all, there's a few arguments to this. The defense of policy action leads to more in-depth research than your model provides. Second is that it's about the model debate that you forward. Under your model, if it's just a topical discussion, that means that negative teams always have incentive to just broadly indict immigration as a structure writ large, rather than specifically contesting its policies, because there's more literature based about the specific policies rather than the larger structure writ large, and that literature base is far more specific. Second,
So, wait one second. If a K team has one specific policy that they critique then, is that chill?
We'd say it's negative ground to critique
you
that
think-
policy.
yeah, it's a question of.
I'm confused here, because you just said you can do one specific policy, you can't do all policies. If there's just one policy that you're supposed to be focusing on,
Okay, that's-
why is that negative ground? This is inherently
So
irrelevant.
first of all, so I think I made a few arguments to this. First of all, it says that the app that you've forwarded is an analysis of the immigration system writ large and presents a sort of analysis of the desires of policymakers in regard to regulating the border. We've said that is a bad model of debate to forward. Rather, we say that we should start off with an analysis of the specific policies and topical education that the topic provides.
Okay.
Second of all, even if we don't buy that, your counter-interpretation makes negative sense, because if we can just engage in a topical discussion of the United States federal government, that means the whole notion of switching sides falls apart. There's functionally no difference between the app and the net, which means questions such as who gets permutations, who gets conditional advocacies, and other sorts of things are basically incoherent under your model of debate.
Okay, cool. You said those are I actually want to ask about that. You said, quote, those are fundamental structures of debate. What are the fundamental structures of debate that you're trying to uphold? What are some of them?
Well, I believe,
those? What does it mean?
So-
Why do we have to uphold fundamental structures of debate? Why is that important?
I think I don't think conditionality is, I don't think, maybe I phrased that poorly. Conditionality is about structure, it's just one of the norms of debate.
Yeah,
But
cool.
under your interpretation though, if
What's
the
your
app-
perfect debate look like?
What's the perfect?
You said these are the fundamental structures of debate we have to uphold. Why?
I think that 2 and C just proposed a model of debate.
You said we have to uphold those. You said, quote, these are fundamental structures of debate we have to uphold. Why?
Right, so I was referring to the distinction between affirmative and negative. If
Yeah,
there's
cool.
no distinction.
What's your perfect world of these fundamental structures of debate upholding?
Act, event, a topical action, referring to the United States federal government.
What's your perfect topic?
Negative indication.
The entire.
That's the entire 2 and C, I don't, do you want me to reiterate it? I can gladly do that.
That's I'll take 3 seconds to prep this right now. Okay, 354.
Oh, yeah.
Three framing issues. First, they conceive the system of neoliberal capitalism culminating extinction. This is two scenarios. First is ecological destruction, contamination of nature, and resources disposal makes inevitable under capital B. Militarism makes more inevitable by requiring constant military intervention to sustain itself, creates a cycle of response. C. Of ethical priority, prioritizing the impacts of criticism, plunder, and 15, whatever more you do, the opposite for the resources of all these are the mechanisms where there's so many possible futures people, reducing existential which is arguably the most important all things with our attention, taking our consequences into account, what may be possible with the versions of a deontology versus the future department, promoting the good from any partial point of view, we should take into account what uncertainty behavior for your own percent. Sure. Second, it turns case. Capital is the root cause of all violence. It's the root cause of the act. Further, Van Boom evidence that isolates exclusion based on the economic viability. It's not a link to an argument. It's a root cause argument. Economics is the field for understanding all their offense about the border. Third is the alternative solves the case. Protests are coming now. Already work protest free movement. Tunisian budget protest group. Class solidarity is achievable. We need to unite with the working class first. Only embracing communist rights for begins the transition from the ultimate social, political, and socio-economic restructuring of the government to seize globalization, corporate capitalist influence on the state. The next first argument they make is the root cause argument. I already answered that above. The next argument is that the critique is a double turn. There's three issues. First, there's no contradiction or links to criticism of individual focus, not criticism of governmental action or reformist approach. Second, is the all-support framework. We need to have a focus on collective actions like governmental representative bodies to check back against the overall system. Our critique of linking is another dissenting-involved debate on framework. You can see it. If you think there's a contradiction, see the procedural as being able to contest certain areas of research to understand its validity before ever evaluating his educational text. This is proved by our truth testing argument. Go to the link debate. The first argument the first is a structural analysis, like the degree of power of these individuals to the is not the overarching structure. That's mutually exclusive with the alternatives and practice really creates a version away from class solidarity, or that's particularly bad given the framing of every about every instance of competence, theological universal sustainability. That makes impacts level. That's the dean evidence. The next argument it answers the link trade. It's open borders. Link 1 I see number 1 and 2 defend open borders. That's a strategy that creates free trade and freedom of movement. This has three implications. First, it proves a double turn because their evidence defends a teleological strategy of facilitating open borders. Second, it proves the top version of the apps possible. Your authors defended. Third, it's a new link. Open borders results in more commodification of workers, sacrificing the democratic decision-making, systemic solutions required. Let's go. And 16, concentration while in the U.S. is diminishing workers, ways to make them less able to recruit conditions and energy pollution. Open borders concept with seriously, we can have borders with an app style, corporate trading, corporations, the ability to apply their economic power across values and pursue maximum profits and borders as a recipe for the further quantification, reduce people's economic benefits. We moved about anti-state rhetoric, linked after representation of the state as being irredeemable. Upper discourse that recreates capitalist control by the corporate powers lash on the state of the state scapegoat, the advocacies, capitalist failures, these locks and capitalist oppression which allows the right to take militaristic action and increase emissions, also by the apps, minus representational defenses of anti-state rhetoric, such as communist movements, used to say would resolve this for the border link, assuming that national sovereign borders are the only states of exclusion, ignores micropolitical, racialized, capitalist violence, or the act ignores things like urban planning, redlining, and segregation that happen within the border. They're predicated off economic exploitation that aren't happening at the physical U.S. border. The permutation, group them both. They're both intrinsic. The first one adds painting symbols, which isn't part of the app. And the second one adds time. That's inevitable for fairness because it's infinitely aggressive. They can add infinite things to permutation. It's impossible to predict. And all links are just as anything else is severance based. The app moving targets voter for in a second is interpensivity. This capitalism is a force of co-option. Universal changes happen on its own co-option. To sustain self-radicalism against random measures, pragmatic solutions to sustain the current political sphere. Examples being like Pepsi, the Berkeley Rats. Third, they don't get a current lack of clear vision of the plan means the app doesn't offer an opportunity cost becomes perfectly all. And serves out the one I see advocacy encourages teams to say as much as possible to avoid substantive debates to voter for the discouraging backsliding less negative to engage in the apps as much as possible increase anti-capitalist activists. And fourth, the presentation is a link. The move to promote comes from a competitive mindset to use the cost-benefit analysis and maximize the productivity of action. This creates the rules with the rational testing of method of advocacy with the alternative results case. That's all the movement stuff above. The next argument they make is the Robinson evidence. They say it's a fantasy group. All their fantasy arguments are all stupid. Fantasies are good. It's the only way to approach the communist prize, and that's the overview above. Second, we're going to make a clear distinction between policy and social fiat. Policy fiat, we think we can something invest within the government to create change. Social fiat, we invest with what we can genuinely control material within the space. The logic of needing a mindset shift is relevant. Voting negative means we put forth an action within the space, which is all we can legitimately control. Either way, you should reject the logic of needing a mindset shift given that academic policy addresses are woefully incapable of addressing policy. We should prioritize solve the arguments that adverse of ability reinforcing actually existing social movements. The next argument of this also all their fantasy arguments contradict themselves. We internally turn all their psychoanalytical offense because Dean includes this inner analysis and says it's necessary. Fantasies are necessary for creating anti-capitalist change. The egalitarian also cites egalitarian evidence that says that not knowing what the blueprint is true. They say forcing blueprints is also a double term with their case arguments. It proves that they invest in fantasies because they want us to provide a blueprint for action. When they say blueprints are bad, this also proves that the apps are giant fucking double turn because they can't explain any difference between anything. They say there's different visions of the party. That also is answered by the fantasy stuff because the different visions of the party are just different possible solutions to the problem. We don't have to defend specific action because we've cited movements in the status quo that are happening now. We say that transnational movements like those are good. They have no defense to that. Second is that there's no answer to like
why communism as the horizon itself is bad.
That, 558?
Yeah.
Oh, you got around to train too. Max culture research.
Say 1:30?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
anyone not ready?
What's the word?
Oh, yeah, my bad. In the case, framework, tab.
Okay.
Cool. Everyone good?
Yep.
The immigration system has had newer stage of becoming border regime focused on the violence which of anyone outside its own boundaries faces with anxiety they don't know, and fantastic attempt to avoid the lack of subjects and value countries to report in their stronghold placing symbolic identities on the unknown to cause the cycles of anxiety and seem to be control the internal into all lines of cause the scapegoating of the other to drag anxieties out and the absence of view of the borders, the unsustainable border system will continue its violence only in the interrogation of our relation with symbolic exclusion and lack of their own life will allow us to have a larger movement based around the non-teleological view of the borders, not as it means to desire, but as a symbolic boundary there, argument of the double turn argument, teleology is a philosophy of desire. It's not a strategy. It's not a strategy for oriented. It's not a strategy. It's a philosophy of desire. You should hold this double turn to a very high threshold because they haven't clearly explained how that's true. Next, on the flawed model argument there, this was the entire top level of the 1AC and of the 2AC. We've criticized the specific immigration policies and how they're focused on the fear of the other, and the anxiety of the other, and of the desirability of them, and how we view them, and how their teleological view. They have isolated a specific good immigration policy. They could have said anything like meritocracy is good, or current asylum regulations or refugee regulations are good, but they were able to identify specific ones throughout the debate. They've had multiple chances after 1C clause 6 and on the scenario planning argument. The scenario planning and all the arguments that that we here group them, these are all fantasies of how debate should work. Their interpretation of how debate should work is that people should just be reading plays, and that we should have a scenario analysis about different possible nuclear wars that could happen. But also their lack of empathy argument is based on the desire for constant reboarding of our lives. The people are changing their empathy based on the reboarding of the different policies, but based on what specifically benefits them in their lives, and that's why they reboard, and that's why they have a lack of empathy. Justin, anything else on the case?
Move on.
Okay. C. New framework through the lens of subjects we are ontological self and uses all actions, thoughts only our interrogation of this connection can shift away from our text and attempt to favor of military lack of social relations. We they haven't properly answered the we need or we are political subjectivity, the act of interrogation of our relations and both question legitimacy of the ability systems. The prior question to any policy discussion, the act is investigation of topic or topical discussion usually for interpretation for because of the dissents and the other are because of the dissents to the framework to their interpretation. And the USG is not the three branches. There's no intent to find its only description of parts. It's just set in a location, and they say that we have 100 million actors because everyone is the USG. However, this is a limits test for limits just solves the applicant. If those applicants human hyper isolate restrictively borders meritocracy as and lastly the non-touchable portion of justice should determine what solves the applicant. There's a way for us to test that and on the switch side, determine the non-uniqueness of topical count. The switch side will never examine desire to turn topic education if they care about critical analysis of topic. They want it every round. There's no option because they can test our method. There's no rather than for testing is on the rebordering dissent. They not answer the words behind the rebordering dissent. They fantasize in perfectly limited topic, and because of this time this involves the real topic, their test will fail to limit perfectly because reboarding what it means to be topical every round. Reboarding other social relations to the limits out case implicit and non-implicit endless exclusion in terms any barriers or education things. There's no barriers to people intentionally reward out of the review. There's no education. There these echo chambers on the subject formation argument. There's always subject formation in every interaction. New different arguments and discussion change the way people view the world. They say that K-rounds should have changed subjectivity already. We think that we have to know that every K-round changes the way you the changes the way you're subjecting on a micro level. Okay, on a micro level, even if it's the same, even if you hit an edge box every round, you learn a new thing and change your subjectivity every time. And the fundamental structures and scapegoating is that attempt to control teams. It's an attempt to control team practices within scapegoating. It only engagement from subjectivity turns all off. It causes wrath because people are stupid or harm because of ideas. It turns truth testing.
That's the perfect model debate.
That's the perfect model debate.
This first.
Okay. They fucked up and conceded the Robbins and turned them their movements uniqueness from the Robbins was already able to 2016 inside the rise of these movements reinforcing them to spoon forward by the rise of the trust universal fashion problems they can't resolve because they always turn back at each other. They also concede the scapegoating off in the 1 yard, which means when these movements would fail, all those action and then we'll blame those movements as to why they collapse capitalism, which factors persist and allows the co-option because on the permit on the Richard.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. Extend would warn whenever fantasize a movement based on economy society based on well-being instead of the sequence of a worker as a necessary, which means that every transgression against the perfect party, the workers further exploited and
Oh, yeah, go
let's go back to the TDAs. The TDAs don't solve the act because it's just another policy that aims to create that deal real with the limited U.S. forces that the applicant away from people or not, and then to get rid of the law, the person no solves the advocate for them, you should hold a very high threshold. Anything else on that?
Read that real quick.
Their ethics are based on symbolic and don't count for the transformation of what it means to take an active action, not until people view the border system as ethics based on the recognition of their ability to reach the real.
354 starting. Okay. All their answers on the top.
How much time?
We have 250. Yeah. I think it's kind of
Did you realize over-the-counter bronchitis medicine?
When I had bronchitis, I think I took an antibiotic, so.
So I have like, I'm amoxicillin and a steroid right now. But if,
See, I don't know what over-the-counter is gonna do better than that.
yeah, probably, but why not all of it?
There's only 4 left, Justin.
There's only 4 left. Andrew or Harrison probably order one. Get it.
Yeah, they should.
What's the order?
TKKs.
Oh,
I got it.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Topicality, we're not going for the disaffective, isolated, all either intrinsic to our interpretation itself, which means they can't be crossed by the critique or any kind of log, which will prove why A, the alternative results, and B, why we win a unique opposite that go to the critique. 3 massive framing issues. First, they can see the extinction concerns as plumber, 2 is true documents. First, that no other impact is reversible events alive of future generation. Why so categorically different? Second, there's no self-infrastructure balance in the world of our impacts that we can't come back from. Proves that we've already won the case. Outweighs this concession matters, because even if you feel they're ahead on the root cause, any percent of the risk of a link, you should vote A, because we control impact factors, which is a prior framing question. 2, they consider ecological destruction impact. And capitalism depends on the logic of endless growth and extrapolation that will inevitably drain the planet of its finite of its resources, which inevitably results in biodiversity loss and increase in emissions that heats up the planet to the point of no life and functions as hypergravity. Only we solve an exclusionary that makes the ultimate prerequisite. This impact uniquely serves the affirmative because the violence that one way would create it would implicate those who have the least access to the least amount of resources, which would obviously be immigrants where in the United States societies and refugees. Third, they're not responsible to one another's root cause us. Even if you don't by arguments about these lack of constitution of the root cause makes the ultimate reverse causal. That means we control 100% of the one see the opposite solve factor by getting rid of the underlying structures that cause civilization and increase and their exclusion in the first place. There's no main drop points to sequencing. Capitalism is essential for the borders to function. It controls the flight of capital and the sort of immigrant labor and use files. Immigrants are demonized because they're not seen as economically viable. The aspects are only relevant the impact of this, so there's particularly contextualized to asylees and refugees, which prove our argument because these people are vindicated or demonized because they're not contributing to the U.S. economy. Fourth, the difficulty of the floating pick. You should embrace the abstract minus to say bad rhetoric, which results all the offices will turn all their state to bad rhetoric on the case, but ultimately the alternative would resolve all the impacts. The alternative result calls for alternative may say communist horizon, which would mean that for transaction moves that are working as communism in the status quo. The alternative was not indicted at all. It was not indicted the one area, nor any of the arguments I was on the above. She should hold the line strictly to the one area because I don't get a 3 and I respond back to this. The Robinson argument on cases is terminally awful. The part of like 20 words high that doesn't make any arguments. Robinson says the Arab Spring, Spain, Greece, occupy Wall Street, immigrant rights, and Black Lives Matter. They don't have any voice in the one area why these cause capitalist correction. You should reject this argument. All this is answered by the unique claim on the alternate movements are happening. That's evidence just proves that's our question of further orienting yourself toward the horizon and fully committed to the communist rights. It's not an act argument. It's not offense against the alternate. Even if you buy the arguments and indict our impact, the next argument is scapegoat. The opposite person presumes that the movement fails. It did not any defense of the alternative, which means that you should presume that the movement succeeds. Second, you can cross the root cause and not addressing capitalism means that those immigrants are demonized successful. Only the alternative can resolve that. The links are argument. First, I'll do the link to make here. First, we're going for a theory of power. The root cause is pretty good. It's just that after the power focus on individual strategy of non-teleological rejection of the borders and all maps the power of capitalism plays instruction the laws that increase. I all the root cause made of this map means that the capitalist structures to go uncontested, which would cause all the impacts on the world. Second is the open borders. One is he wanted to advocate for an open border policy as part of the non-teleological strategy, which means that, and we've proven why open borders are inherently neoliberal because they allow for the free flight of capital. And this is because neither of these link arguments are contested, which means that you should give them full weight. The ethics background argument, even if you buy the arguments and indict evidence, they don't have any opposite against deep theorization of the alternative barrier to remain. They can see the floating view, which means the alt results they have, which means they can't use as a dissent to the alternative. Second, extinction, and even all the extinction work above
That's fine. There's not a warrant to why any of the movements Robinson said.
There's not a warrant as to why any of the movements the Robinson said ultimately failed, which means that you should be highly skeptical of any new to our analysis on the alternative. Go to the case. I'll extend the double turn argument. The one of our nearly incoherent on this is a pretty clear argument that you have the desire for the battle, which proves that ultimately your strategy of non-geological commitment ultimately creates teleological life, provide leading to a predestination of the immigrant for about the only argument is that you should have a high threshold. One, they're not forwarding their own in-depth analysis on the double turn, which means that you should in fact have a high threshold for proving why the affirmative doesn't using the double turn. Second, we'll extend that the law is ultimately good, and the communist rise ultimately resolves the fact why neoliberal policies ultimately fail. There's no example. We isolated a pretty specific example, such as DACA. There's no answer to the fact that we should not be deporting treatments in the status quo, i.e. while Trump is moving only the communist horizon would move this would solve by working against anti-immigration policies that demonize immigrants because of the lack of their economic valuability. That is only the alternative result of all their predestination of this, because all their predestination is entirely predicated off of economic rationality. The alternative obviously challenges that, which means we all resolve all the impacts of why the status quo law ultimately fails the status quo law fails.
1:30, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'll take it, you just keep it. I'll take it. I got it.
I'll just do the rest. I don't want your bronchitis. I can have my water.
case, then cap, overview on top of case. Actually, I'm gonna get my grammar real quick, or I'm done. Okay, you ready? Oh my god, they should have gone for prayer. The app is an 8-minute link turn to the CapCake. The immigration system has had its mirror station become a border regime, obviously, violence exclusive of anyone outside its own boundaries, refugees, asylums, and the others crossing border base, and detention centers and elimination of default immigrants necessary for production are allowed on the basis of desiring capital. The desire and the nature of capitalism is the internal link turn we're going for on capitalism. The only reason capitalism exists in the first place is because there's a desire for production, which was the conceded analysis coming out of the 1AR that they cannot garner any offense on a lead form, which means even their floating pig, which we will number one answer, cannot resolve without achieving without focusing on the desire first, because it's always going to devolve into why we desire production and desire people to do things for us in the first place. The exclusion is based on the anxiety of the unknown and a fantastic intent to avoid like subjects and countries reborn to protect their struggle to play licensing small entities of the unknown, which causes cyclism, anxiety, and exclusion. We control the internally to all of the violence, causes scapegoat to the others, and to ignore the fundamental lack. We never realize
realize the reasons actions fail to direct anxieties outward efforts by the banality of social relations is increased. Reported within social relations when small transgressions are made. Out to shift in the view of order, the unsustainable border system will continue its violence on the interrogation of our stimulation for small conclusion life within our own life will allow for a large movement based on non-teleological view of order, not as desirable. In between symbolic memory, the biggest problem they have with our case is the double turn argument. The double turn, it's not a double turn. They try to say telos, but it's teleology as is a philosophy of having something with a desire as a desire for the end. We reject the notion of desire. Also, they say that we desire because we develop the psychoanalysis is a negative action trying to critique the desires. We are critiquing the desires. The judges role, they continue the role of the judges, the analysts, to try to show what the desires are in the round to provide a momentary rupture from the oppression of the symbolic, so we can escape that and try to realize our fantasies in connection with the real, so we can question within the academic spaces, which means we'll be voting after this debate. And then the only other place is the law good. One of the communist horizons is going to be able to solve the app, just because one example of this, or the one example of immigration policy not failing is only serves to legitimize the symbolic structures that oppress the immigrants in the first place. That's all of our offense as to why all of our offense are in the Van Buren card as to why immigration systems recreate the harms they try to solve and legitimize themselves with one good policy is offense for this. They fed into that. Let's go to the K. It is going to be extremely easy for me to win the K. Number one, because the role of judge to the analyst only by accessing our desires can we move to a political subjectivity as the place of the hysteric in the Lacanian discourse, which challenges the normative structures of power within the university. So for number one, for education, we have to have the role of the analyst and challenge the desires. Number two is we have to be that's challenging the desires of the prerequisite to any actual subject formation out of the round, or any carrying the education out. They conceded the ethics of the real, which is that by identifying with the non-teleological forms of borders within our lives, we can take those borders down, and the borders between you and me are no longer based on desiring something from each other, but by something larger. We get to weigh this against all of their all, because we entered number one, the floating pick, the Robinson turn, is against the floating pick. The Robinson evidence is where they get all of the movements that they cite. But the Robinson is from April 2016, right, or before Trump was even elected, before the populist movements in Europe. All of these are trading off with populism and neo-fascism around the world, which means that their movements are never going to be their fantasy movement, which they outline. They concede the scapegoat offense, which means that whenever we're not achieving our perfect fantasy, we scapegoat, because we're rebordering what it means to have our perfect fantasy. Everyone that's outside of that gets excluded, which means number one, the fracturing arguments that they make don't apply to us, they apply to them, because they're always going to be fracturing their resistance and causing more oppression. Also, it means that they're always going to be exclusionary to people within their own frameworks, and this exclusionary causes the same exact violence that capitalism causes, which means they're recreating the systems. None of this was answered in the one or the two and our do not give them any offense on the slope. They can the link, that's the link turn we're going for, the link level. The absence of rejecting the individual desires so we can gather together as a collective only by first rejecting these individual desires. Can we do that, which means the theory of power link does not apply. I already answered why the app isn't open borders, because it's about borders within our lives at large, and the border is a specific structure. We're not getting rid of that for a specific exclusion. That's the Van Buren evidence, which talks about how often open borders is for specific economic evaluation. The Maggard evidence talks about how teleological views, and reading that of the Kanye is good. I'm just going to